Hello, everybody. Karen DeBella here, the Essential Musician. Welcome to Dr. K's Office Hour. The professor is in. Today, we are going to talk about decision fatigue. So this is one of those things that I didn't know existed before really diving into the last couple years, where I've really gotten into productivity and focus and concentration and trying to maximize time and figuring things out. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm in my day job, in my day life, I am a university music department chair, and it's my second round. And in my first round as chair, I had a hard time. I had a really hard time balancing things, managing the emotional overwhelm, and just figuring it all out. Because, you know, I'm a creative person. I'm not trained to be a middle management administrator. So here I am in my second round, and I've learned some things. And one of the things that happened to me the first time around was a little story I'm going to share with you. So I was at work all day doing department chair things, doing middle management administration, and making decisions all day for other people. And it's taxing, it's demanding. And I was tired. You know, we get tired in our jobs. So I came home, and my wonderful husband, I call him Saint Husband, he's really wonderful. I came home and I opened the door and he said, "What do you want for dinner?" And I was like, and I'm holding on to my stress oil right here. And I was like, I can't deal. And I forget exactly what I said, but I was very grumpy, very angrily grumpy. And I thought, I knew my conscious brain was saying, "You're being ridiculous. He's just trying to do something nice for you." And what I kept thinking was, do I have to make this decision too? What I really wanted for dinner was not to make the decision about what to have for dinner. That's what I wanted for dinner. Of course, I apologized and I felt really badly about it. But then, you know, it was a little while, a couple years after that I came across this thing called decision fatigue. And I thought, oh, this is a thing. I have that. And I think we may all have that too. So I'm looking over my machine here at my other machine where I have my blog post. If you don't know, I put out a weekly blog post every Wednesday. It goes live, and I post on all my social media channels. So if you wanted to do a little advanced reading for the Thursday office hour, this is where you would go. And I wrote this like 6 weeks ago, so I don't remember what I wrote. So I'm just going to have a look. But it's kind of along the lines of when I was learning about bedtime revenge procrastination. That's the thing where you stay up too late, you know, playing Candy Crush, which is what I do, or scrolling social media when you know you should be sleeping. So decision fatigue kind of falls into that core category of things that we all experience at some point, but we didn't know it had a name. Weirdly, when we put a name to something and we know that it's sort of a universal thing, that we kind of, why does that make us feel better? I don't know. Because misery loves company. I don't know. Anyway, it made me feel a little bit better. But, you know, when do you experience this? Retailers know this really well. Grocery store retailers know this really well. There's a New York Times article that came out in 2011. There's a link to it in my blog post, and I highly recommend it. If you just Google New York Times decision fatigue, you'll find it. But they talked about the whole psychology of decision fatigue. And they were saying that, you know, that's why they have sugary snacks at the checkout. We know that it's like, okay, we're in the checkout and we're a captive audience, but it's more than that. If you've gone through the whole grocery store and you've had to make decisions about what you're going to buy, then by the time you get to the checkout, your decision-making ability has been used up. It's like we have a finite amount of decision-making. And when we get to the checkout, our defenses are down. We're done with decision making. And it was what's fascinating in this article. They talked about how people who have tighter grocery budgets are more susceptible to falling for the sugary snack thing at the checkout because they have to make more decisions when they're doing their groceries. So try this when you go do your grocery. I mean, we shop online now. So, you know, I guess it's a little different, but really have your list together before you go. I mean, we all know don't shop hungry, but maybe you need to make as many decisions in advance if you don't want to fall prey to the checkout, you know, sugary snack, decision fatigue, strategic placement. Isn't that interesting though? I think that's so interesting. So here are some survival tactics for you. Try to recognize when it happens. One of the things that comes up for me a lot is, you know, we have a veggie box come every week. We have a CSA box, like a farm share. And, you know, I open the fridge and then there's broccoli and kale and celery and you're looking and you're like, let's just have pizza. Let's just throw pizza in the oven. That's decision fatigue because you don't want to make yet another decision about what to have for dinner. that would be an example of decision fatigue. Even better, when you recognize that, try to figure out when you're at your decision making best. So earlier in the day for most people, studies also show that after you have a snack with some glucose in it, like a sugary snack, that apparently it kind of resets your ability to make decisions. So recognize when you're at your decision making best, and then revisit those moments where you tend to be decision fatigued, like at dinner time, and try to plan ahead. So that would be a really great argument for, as you're having your lunch, plan what you're going to have for dinner. Right? There's more to it than just, plan ahead. There's actually, like, it's connected with, fueling your brain and not making so many decisions. So it's just kind of interesting. Another thing too, I'm an examiner. I'm a piano examiner, so I administer piano exams. And some of my viewers are also piano examiners. But this is really interesting. There were studies that showed that people who have to do sort of adjudication kind of decisions, like judges or people like that, they make more the kinds of more broadly based decisions that are more favorable in outcome after they've had a snack, or when they're first, like after lunch or after a snack or first thing in the morning. And then later on in the day, they tend to be a little more impatient with their decisions and just kind of go the easiest decision. So as a piano examiner, and if you take piano exams, I would highly recommend trying to be first in the morning or first right after lunch. Interesting, right? Okay, another thing to help with decision fatigue is to automate as much as you can. So here are some ideas for automation. What do I mean by that? So morning routine. So I have a morning routine. I'm not a morning person. I hate mornings, but I get up in the morning because my routine is automated. So I set out my workout clothes the night before. So when I get up, I know exactly what all the steps are and the clothes are there. If I have to stop and look for clothes, forget it. I don't work out. It's done. I know exactly every step of my routine. When do I make the coffee? I always put the same diffuser blend in my diffuser in the kitchen every morning. And then you can anchor the aroma with a certain habit as well. It's really interesting. I'll get back to that in a second. So automations versus habits. We tend to talk about those a little bit interchangeably. There's a really great book by James Clear called Atomic Habits. I'm sure many of you here know this book. And here's a quote: "The best way to create a good habit is to automate it so you don't have to think about it again." So that's how I work my morning routine in. For some of you, back to the meal planning thing, some of you have the habit of meal planning every Sunday for the whole week. That's awesome. I can't do that. But if that works for you, great. But these are the kinds of things when you find yourself making the kinds of decisions where you're like, I know this is a whatever, I'll just choose this. Catch yourself and see if you can then proactively, when you're feeling more in your decision-making zone, to, decide ahead of time what you're going to do so that you don't catch yourself having pizza every night, because we've been in those phases, right? Let's see. When you do decide, or when you do find yourself in decision fatigue, try to write down your plan somewhere. And again, when you're feeling your best, maybe you want to revisit it. Maybe you have a journaling practice and you can revisit that as one of your prompts. Write down your plan somewhere. And if you have the reaction where you're like, I have to decide where I'm going to write it down so I don't forget. Make a decision about where you're going to keep track of notes. See, all of these things work together, and it helps with your productivity, and it's all sort of feeds into each other. Plan ahead. One of the things that I've really started to use in my daily life is this Full Focus Planner by Michael Hyatt and Company. This thing is awesome. And in here, one of the things that has really helped me is there's something in here called the Ideal Week. And in the Ideal Week, you get to, you put ahead all of the different important things in your schedule, so you kind of know where things go. So then when a request comes in for you to have a meeting or an activity or whatever, instead of looking at your schedule and going, oh, well, it might go here, it might go there, blah, blah, blah. No, you already know. Things of this category go in this place. Things in this category go in this place. That's one extra thing you can automate. And another thing is weekly preview. Every Sunday, I look ahead at my whole week. What do I have coming up? And then I can put prompts in my calendar for each day and say, okay, on this day, I'm going to do this for this thing. On this day, I'm going to do this for this thing. So when I come to that day, especially when I have a day and I'm administrating and I have a whole bunch of decisions to make, I've already pre-decided a lot of the things that I'm going to have to do that day. I know what day I set my meeting agendas. I know what day I send out my student letters. I know what day I do, setting up my website for my courses. I know the days that I do that, and I know the steps that I do in those days. I don't have to think about that. I don't have to make those decisions anymore. I just do them. And so my brain is more free to make decisions for other things, like what to have for dinner. And the last thing I want to leave you with, of course, as always, use your oils. So I wrote a blog post called Your Diffuser, Your Work From Home Productivity Hero. It's linked in my blog post. And in it, I talked about this really interesting thing where you can anchor aromas with emotional response that you can associate with activities. Let me come back to this. So let's say I want to anchor a habit of feeling awake and energized in the morning, because I don't do mornings. I have diffuser blends around the house that I put in every morning, and I don't think about it. They're always the same, and they all have peppermint in them. So anytime I smell peppermint now, I've associated that with waking up. So peppermint is an oil that tends to energize you because it opens up your airways. But peppermint, or I use Adaptive too, which has spearmint in it. But I've associated those aromas or those blends with, okay, it's wake up time now. Okay, this aroma I associate with when I do my journaling. This aroma I associate with when I'm going to start my workout. You can associate the aroma with the habit, but it goes deeper than that, because the aroma is linked to your limbic system, which is the emotional response. So you can actually train yourself to make the association between an aroma and how you feel about doing the activity. This is so important. If you want to feel happy about working out in the morning, then set yourself up so that you have a workout that you enjoy. Associate the same aroma with it every time so that you feel the way you want to feel. Then what you can do is take that aroma and sniff it. It will incite the limbic system to remember that you feel this way when you smell that, and you'll be more likely to go ahead and do the activity you've associated with it. So it's not just this aroma equals this activity. It's this aroma equals I feel this way when I do this activity. Isn't that interesting? So interesting. So for me, I have some really key things. If I know that I'm overwhelmed with a to-do list that's 10 miles long, I use Adaptive. I also use it before I come on and do, speaking or whatever. It's great. And there's other ones that I use too. But, you can use oils that are good for focus, but also you can make that association. It's really interesting. Very, very powerful. So, decision fatigue. Recognize when it happens. Try to revisit how you can plan ahead, and revisit when you know you're at your decision-making best. Thank you for hopping on. Blog post is at theessentialmusician.ca/blog. And have a great day. Happy Easter weekend, everybody.